Hello, welcome. We're getting started rather quickly with our first game of the day. The players just going ahead and getting us into this draft right here. Sorry for the abrupt start getting into Masters Clash today. Let me go ahead and update my stream title really quick. Inting for Ruby versus Oxygen Esports. Alrighty, we have our stream title up. Getting ready to post everything to social media, and then we can get this train moving. As you can see, the players are going ahead and taking care of the draft right here as I get our social media stuff posted up and out. I got my tweet out. Getting my Discord notification out. There we go. Alrighty. And from what I could see in here today, interestingly enough, only two other casters were in the lobby at the time, or rather one other caster. I think it was just Noise and I was in here when we got started, but regardless, we're getting ready to take our first series of the day here, rather to view our first series of the day. This is going to be Inting for Ruby versus Oxygen Esports. Inting for Ruby will be on the left side of your screen, Oxygen Esports will be on the right. I will say, based on what we have seen in prior performances, based on what we've seen in standings, I kind of have to default give Oxygen a level of respect and expectation about how they're going to perform in this given week, but you never know exactly what's going to happen, and teams can always surprise you. At the moment, though, Oxygen has looked very, very strong in the games that they've played. I think that they've just looked consistently good in everything that I've seen. They did get 2-0'd in Masters Clash last week by Chili Mountain, but then when they changed over to CCL and had the exact same matchup, then Oxygen completely took it the other way around and just absolutely bodied Chili Mountain. And so, of course, Oxygen, I feel like any team is going to be like, oh, we weren't trying that hard when in those games that we lost, and then when we actually won all the games, that's when we were trying, But that is roughly what I've heard a little bit, is that that first series was seen as slightly a bit of a warm-up in the overall context of the big matchups. Are you solo casting today? I am indeed. So far for today, I have no co-caster. It is just going to be me for all 4 blocks of the day, and I think it's going to be a blast. Usually I like to duo cast a little bit, kind of play a little bit back and forth off of another person, but solo casting is also a pleasure in and of itself. Let's take a look right here. Infernal Shrines. The Hogger picked up so late right here. It's interesting that Oxygen actually felt the need to prioritize Medivh so highly. I'm wondering if it was getting third banned out, because they did not feel the need to take the Hogger right away. And I just think to myself, they're coached by Cavalier Guest. They're coached by a guy who played every character in the game to level 15, and then Hogger came out and he just said, you know what, forget all those characters, alright, I just want my spinny Tasmanian Devil Boy. Fairly classic shrine-focused composition, though, from the side of Inting for Ruby. I'm looking at them right here. Oh, it's a double support. Inting for Ruby has shown a proclivity toward drafting double support lately. So they've got extremely solid shrine clear, and when I'm looking at a team like Inting for Ruby, where you've got double support, you're on Infernal Shrines, you've got all this AoE damage, I'm thinking to myself, all they want to do is play on shrines. If you're double support, you love to just maximize the amount of 5-on-5s that you get and minimize the extent to which the game might be about. Maybe some small skirmishes where you can't take advantage of your double supports, but also minimize the extent to which the game, as double support, is about macro. So, if IFR, Inting for Ruby, can just use their double support powers to take some 5-on-5s on the objectives, it could be very, very good for them. On the other hand, Oxygen, like I said, I look at Oxygen, I look at their performances, and I'm not willing to count them out against anybody, and they undeniably have a very large advantage in the seeding right here. Let me go ahead and show you before we get into this game as our players start to load up. Ooh, a little bit of bug right there, but that's all good. Here in the rankings for Masters Clash, we see Oxygen Esports coming in at number 2 with 19 points overall, and IFR coming in at number 7 with 2 points overall. IFR would love to pick up some points right here, and Oxygen, of course, trying to catch up to Chili Mountain. Let's go ahead and take a look over at our players in these games right here. On the left side for Inting, for Ruby, we have Mindhawk playing Blaze, Hat on the Tychus, Nox on Deckard, and Gunnar on the Hogger. I feel like I actually skipped over Fish on that Uther. He was right in the middle there, please forgive me. And now we look over at Oxygen Esports, where we have Bad Benny playing that Diablo, Hans, aka Nick, on the Sylvanas, Yasu on the Stukov. Hopefully get to see some Lucio here or there. You know, that's always what I'm talking about. If anybody watched my review of last week's Masters Clash games, you know that Yasu and his level of play and how he's able to understand and read a Lucio player was a big topic. And of course, 19CM, aka Copenhagen, gonna be playing that Leo and Hasu on the Medivh. I think it'll still always chat perma-tilt me that a guy named Yasu and a guy named Hasu decided to team up. But you know what? It is what it is. And it's just sometimes it's gonna trip you up as a caster. We see IFR at the moment just staying grouped, having a slight rotational advantage. No surprises there. Medivh not really able to contribute much in the form of macro in the early game. Your presence is largely going to be relegated to merely just gathering stacks of your Master's Touch and securing vision of the enemy team right there. You're not going to have a ton of opportunities to do much of anything macro-wise more stringent than holding a minion wave while you pick up the soak. Notice the portals here used to increase the speed of rotation, as well as rotate completely out of vision by the members of Oxygen Esports. And Oxygen is actually going for an extremely early capture of this top bruiser camp. I'm wondering if they expect the composition of Inting for Ruby to be weak into this top siege, or what exactly is going on, but regardless, it is an interesting strategy and a very quick capture as they portal out, and yep, we already see the top lane pressure here. Do note that first objective is going to be top side. So if the members of Oxygen can manage to take out this top gate with this bruiser push, that would be very effective for pushing in and pressuring onto the second objective. Effective on the objective. Now Gunnar going in for the spin right there, but he's taking a lot of damage from Nick, and I don't think this is the angle he wanted. Gunnar's protractor may be looking a little bit faulty, but he's not going down for the count just quite yet. He is in there. Here's Copenhagen. Oh, my no, jet propulsion not going to land on anything. And Copenhagen finishing off Gunnar for first blood. Can they make it second blood? Mindhawk now jet propulsioning on out of there. Does get it, but the portal chase. Medivh, by the way. Oh, there's a potion. Mindhawk actually escaping after I thought it was a done deal that he was going to die. That is quite impressive. Regardless, the teamfight prowess from Oxygen should not be understated. I spoke about Inting for Ruby in the draft being a double support composition, but of course Oxygen has a double support composition of their own, thanks to the presence of both the Medivh and Stukov, and I realized for a second I was missing the action. Luckily no blood was shed without our eyeballs present on the scene, so we're gonna be okay. And now the members of Inting for Ruby calmly clearing out the objective. Meanwhile, Oxygen, they want to utilize the push pressure that they have. Notice even Stukov's getting in on the action right here. Stukov, very high auto attack DPS for a healer. And they're just utilizing this push pressure with the Stukov and the Sylvanas. But here is Gunnar on the scene trying to interfere. And now it is a skirmish 4-on-4, each team leaving their offlaners on that top objective. Mindhawk and Copenhagen trading some damage right here. Looking good for Copenhagen, both in terms of health and Guardian numbers on that Infernal Shrine. Oh, but now Gunnar and Hat have arrived, and Copenhagen quickly finds himself in a 1v3. He attempts to Wraith Walk out of there, and the quarterback grenade finishes him off, evening up the kill count of this series 1-1. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Oxygen, the name of the game is pushing, you know it. They're going to go ahead and portal on out of there after getting the bottom gate. And in fact, they're using Medivh's increased rotation speed to go straight from sieging bottom fort all the way up to a topside rotation. Absolutely nutty, as now the Punisher has been baited over the wall, and it's actually pressure into Gunner yet again. Gunner, though, not stunned by the Diablo Shadow Charge, thanks to a well-timed dip into the Unstoppable on Hog Wild. Right, chat? Am I wrong about that one? It's like Hog Wild with 2 Gs. I've lost track of this game for like 6 months. Is it double support in new meta? Not exactly is how I would describe it. Inting for Ruby is a team that, particularly from what I have seen, has a penchant for drafting double support, particularly with Fish 777 right here on that main tank Uther. But there is not exactly a ton of double support games being played in comp. It is an option rather than the default expectation. As we see now, Nick and Hasu, they are just addicted to pressuring these lanes whenever they get even the most remote opportunity, always going for a bit of siege damage. Meanwhile, the members of IFR, utilizing the knowledge that they know Oxygen has most of their pressure up there in the top lane, no damage pressure on the bottom side of the map, they're just going to go ahead. Hold on a second. They just took that bottom neutral siege camp on the members of IFR. And now Oxygen continuing to just get some chip pressure. And look at the gates of every fort, okay? Top fort gate, dead. Mid fort gate, dead. Bot fort gate, dead. It's a very interesting situation that they've had right here. Just looking to soften up everything. I would particularly understand a playstyle like that if they were playing against like a Stitches, for example, because Stitches scales very hard with his structures being nearby. And if you can manage to take them out, then he's much less effective. Hasuab's looking for the leyline seal to try and leyline steal the camp back for the members of Oxygen. It's not going to work, though. Divine Shield keeping Tychus alive as he just stands there and turret modes Diablo down. Though Diablo did have soul, so he's going to come back soon. Yasu now taking a bunch of damage. In the meantime, in the face of Uther, both healers going down. This is a 2-for-1 kill advantage in favor of Inting for Ruby, but Bad Benny's back on the scene. Hits the Shadow Charge over the wall onto Hat. Nothing can save him. And now, yet again, the kill count for the moment is evened up at 3 for 3, but Nick, wow! What a loot horde combo from Gunner right there to hit the aggressive kill pressure. Man, a hero that has 1v1 kill pressure and wave clear and camp clear and self-sustain and dive? I'm not saying anything, chat. You know my opinions on the hero already now. Oxygen getting started with their bruiser camp here, as we have seen the same from Inting for Ruby. Medivh just very calmly, very safely picking up the soak here in this bottom lane. And a delayed capture onto the bruiser camp from Oxygen. We're probably going to see the same thing from Inting for Ruby. Fish delaying it significantly longer than Oxygen. Trying to get their bruiser camp to beat Oxygen's, and all of the mind control just scraping the hairs on the back of Mindhawk's neck. But the Entomb actually still coming out from Hat, who simply just dashes right on out of there. He is unbothered. Now Copenhagen is on the retreat, but he's got a Medivh. So hey, Portal, protected by the way. You know, he can get out of there whenever he needs to. A little bit silly, but that's how the character works. Now, Hogger setting up the infinite spin onto this shrine. This is one of the better shrines for Hogger. He really maximizes his amount of time clearing. And oh, the leyline seal! Barely interrupting Blaze's jet propulsion, allowing the members of Oxygen to reposition and avoid it. Now, Bad Benny taking a lot of damage, but it gets healed off thanks to this double support composition. But Inting for Ruby is fast clearing this objective, quicker than Oxygen can even hope to pressure it with the combined damage structure of this Tychus, of this Hogger. It's just too much. The bunker is going to come out from Inting for Ruby, but at this point, Oxygen knows, hey, we didn't get it. All right, we got to back off here. Nope, no sense fighting them under John Cena himself, the Punisher, as he's often called by the community, John Cena. But no point in standing there and fighting him. Let's go ahead and defend it behind our fort. Now the members of Inting for Ruby trying to take advantage of whatever they can here. I will say their siege damage is not super high as a team. Oh, Gunner on the scene uses the Hortapult to interrupt the Stukov channel right there on the lurking arm and sets up a kill right away. Excellent usage of the aggressive potential of Hogger right there by Gunnar, as now Copenhagen retreats. Copenhagen will be fine. The remaining members of Oxygen looking to pick up some soak and clear out this Punisher. Inting for Ruby utilizing their advantage, and that is quite the spin by Hogger. Okay, I don't think I've seen that one before, and maybe that's just me not playing a lot of Hogger, but what a mind control from Nick onto Fish in mid lane. Only about 1 or 2 auto attacks from finishing Fish off, but of course not able to capitalize due to the presence of the rest of the members of Inting for Ruby. Oxygen clearing out their camp, IFR utilizing that time to continually just have a macro advantage. And although Inting for Rubies has shown a solid lead in pressuring the map so far, they have a slight kill advantage. It hasn't materialized into a large XP advantage because, of course, this is the current state of the game of Heroes of the Storm. I say current like it wasn't changed at this point a good 3 or 4 years ago. But under old HGC rules, if you took this many forts early game, then you would have a very solid... Oh, hold on. Nick actually getting jet propulsion out of Shadow Waving will be fine, though, thanks to the Protect from Hasu. But the old XP changes to this game from a few years ago really sought to just eliminate almost any kind of early game snowballing. Although you can still get massive advantages in the early game under the current situation of Heroes of the Storm, you just can't end with them until late game, which is a rather strange situation. Regardless, Oxygen, of course, known for ending games quickly, not going to apply in this game. But if there's any team that understands how, even in spite of the XP system, to pressure out cores, buildings, everything, it is this Oxygen team. One stat Cavalier guest, the coach of Oxygen, loves to say very frequently is, oh, Oxygen, we have the shortest record of clear speed every season in terms of finishing a game. They'll often come in and in like 8 minutes just absolutely steamroll somebody. It is kind of wild to see in action. He really knows a lot about angles with Hogger. It is indeed something he focuses on a lot as a Hogger main. Whenever there is a Hogger on the screen, it's all Cav wants to talk about. The man knows what he likes. Yasu now looking for the Bruiser camp. As IFR approaches, Mind Control landing onto Mind Hawk, but the Hawk is unbothered by the control here. Shadow Charge from Bad Benny getting right on in there. And there's the Lightning Breath coming out of the Leyline Seal. Bad Benny dropping like a stone, however. Right in Tychus's face, that percentage damage is going to shred right through your Soul Shield or whatever you have. Nick now able to Shadow Wave on out of the action as Sylvanas. Medivh going to utilize Portal to hop on out of there as well. Meanwhile, Copenhagen, in a situation where the members of Oxygen don't look great, Copenhagen is on here getting big damage and not taking much at all in return. Of course, the members of Inting for Ruby have double support. They have their healing fountains, but that is a very aggro portal, landing the mind control onto Fish, but it's actually Mindhawk who is quite low and who Bad Benny has decided to focus on. Mindhawk will be the first to go down of this exchange right there. Then you can just see there's so much synergy in the ability to control the fights when you have a Leoric, Diablo, and Medivh all at the same time. Diablo always able, of course, to wallbang off of the Leoric and Tombs, and the ability to use those aggro portals to set up kill combos. So absolutely massive from the members of Oxygen Esports. Inting for Ruby now knowing that they do not have Blaze, merely just trying to get some wave clear out. And hold on, this is another aggro portal from Oxygen onto Deckard, landing the MC as well. Leyline Seal not going to connect onto any members of Inting for Ruby. And note, Black Arrows was used right there by Nick. Nick knows that once they win this Punisher, there is not a massive need to shut down this fort. It's rather the keep after that they would want to use it on. But it looks like we may see actually a 39 from Oxygen. A 38, perhaps. Where they're taking a second to say, hey, let's go ahead and clear out the map right here. Let's end this split pressure that we're going to have to deal with. Once this is all cleared out, then we can go ahead and finish off the objective. It's a very common move that you don't see a lot of players do in ladder, but is very, very effective. It's just delaying the capture of the objective when you are sure to achieve it. Hasuab's not landing the leyline seal onto Gunner. There's also a bit of a kerfuffle over here. Nick gonna be able to jump right on out of that. This is, of course, Game 1 of Series 1 today. Inting for Ruby versus Oxygen Esports. Remember that in the group stage of Masters Clash, this is the final stage of play before playoffs. In the group stage of Masters Clash, each team only plays a best of 2. It is always 2 games regardless of results. And so there will, of course, be 8 games played today, 4 series overall. After this one, we're going to have Three-Legged Cat versus Chili Mountain. Oxygen now pressuring up with this objective that they secured a long time ago, and that's actually a mind control into multiple members of Inting for Ruby. The cleanse, however, from Mindhawk, I believe received by Uther, allowing him to bunker and deny the entomb attempt. But here's Bad Benny coming in, setting up the Punisher jump, actually forcing out a Divine Shield. And if you're the members of Inting for Ruby, you know you wish you could have held on to that a little bit longer, maybe to enable the Tychus to do something aggressive, like when he shredded Bad Benny earlier in the game, whilst under the effects of a Divine Shield. But it looks like that is just going to be yet another wall push, and that is it from the members of Inting for Ruby. Gunner's in there! And he just gets absolutely popped in the midst of 4 members of Oxygen Esports. The mind control by Nick onto Fish coming out of the leyline seal. Very well timed right here. Fish dropping low, but not quite down for the count. It'll be Hat next. Oh, and leyline seal. Fish trying to get out of the way. Can't dodge it in time. No! And now Fish getting shadow charged by Bad Benny. That will set up kill number 4. At this point, Copenhagen is, of course, looking to join the members of Oxygen Esports, who are aware that they have the chance to end the game. The portal seeking to increase the speed at which Leoric arrives. And at this point, I am fairly 100% certain that there is no way Oxygen can lose this game. I'm not sure if you can be fairly 100% certain. I feel like 100% and certain mean the same thing, but fairly means mostly. Regardless, there's a mind control on to Mindhawk. And he is going to be the next member of Inting for Ruby to get dropped right here. Inting for Ruby, a very... Oh, wait, hold on. What's that animation? Oh, the MC attempt onto Gunner mid-Hortipult, but of course Hogger is unstoppable during Hortipult. Maybe perhaps just securing some stacks of Banshee's Curse onto him for extra damage from Nick. But that is going to be game number 1. I'm so sorry, I just realized I didn't flash talents for most of that game. That is going to be game number 1 for Oxygen Esports in their matchup against Inting for Rubies. I'm used to casting with the default setup for Heroes of the Storm, where all the talents are just visible all the time. But for Masters Clash, you have to use Aliabs, which is a much, much better spectator interface than what the game by default gives you. Unfortunately, it means that the talents are not visible by default, and I have to press a button to bring them up right there. I am so sorry for not doing that in the middle of the game more often in that last game. I'm going to try to hit that as we get through game number 2 here with the rematch to finish out this first series of the day, Inting for Ruby versus Oxygen Esports. Interestingly, a Lord of Terror picked up from Diablo, and this is not the first one that I've seen so far. Our lobby not quite up just yet. Oh, and this is actually an auto-attack Leoric. I was never a huge fan of Hopelessness with auto-attack Leoric. I always liked the move speed talent at level 7. Because I figure, hey, if you're trying to, stay on top of the enemy team and auto-attack them a lot, well then, impeding your move speed doesn't help with that. But maybe it doesn't feel super necessary with the Paralyzing Rage. An interesting topic to be discussed for sure. Oxygen looking solid right here. I thought IFR was going to pick up that map win at times, but no, the late game power, the pick potential. Everything looked okay for IFR, and then all of a sudden it's, oh, aggro portal, aggro portal, aggro portal, everybody just dropping. waiting on that lobby right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the schedule for today, folks. As you can see, we are in the first series of the first day in that top left area of the schedule here. Inting for Ruby versus Oxygen Esports. Game 1 just concluded. Game 2 going to be up next. Afterwards, we'll have Three-Legged Cat face off against Chili Mountain. Masters Clash Academy going to be our third matchup of the day versus Granite Gaming. And Rage Quit Gaming facing off against Bang Bush to round out the day. We have a lobby up here for game number 2. Let's go ahead and take a look. It's not updated on the map statistics yet, but game number 1 was Inting for Ruby's map choice in Infernal Shrines. Game number 2 will be on Volskaya Foundry. Game number 2 will be on Volskaya Foundry here today. I'm not sure which team exactly picked this here. I'm going to go ahead and ask. Now, we've got team number 2 having the first pick, so it looks like this is another Inting for Ruby map pick, with Oxygen Esports picking up first pick here in game number 2. Are most of the other casters out or something? I'm looking through and I only see myself and Noisin in the lobby, but hey, whatever works. The topic... I don't know if I could show the chat between the games here, but the topic of picking Volskaya appears to be quite the contentious one between the players at this lobby. Not even... So, Inting for Ruby chose Volskaya, and it appears in this chat that not even Inting for Ruby had consensus support for picking the map on their team. Alrighty, we are going to be ready here soon to take it into game number 2, one of my favorite maps in the game. That's enough casters? Hey, just the 2 of us is apparently all we need, you know, just like the song. We can make it if we try. Now we're waiting for game number 2. I will say Volskaya Foundry, just a personal favorite of a map for me in particular. Volskaya is a map that feels very open from a drafting perspective, okay? As we go into our draft right here, let's take a look. We're talking about Volskaya. This is a 3-lane map that is not super stringent on demanding a lot of wave clear. You can get by with relatively little of it, and you are guaranteed at least some level of fighting. Playing for permanent split push was a thing in the past, but Volskaya tended to have periods where sometimes that was really good and sometimes that was really bad. But Volskaya Foundry just feels like a map where you can pick almost anything and still have it work out here or there, or at least give it a solid attempt. I think Tempo Storm knows a bit about picking almost anything on this map right here, as we see the Mephisto ban. Gonna be the first ban of game number 2. I understand that contention. You don't like Volskaya? Oh, come on, man. I will say, Volskaya is probably my second favorite map in the game after Towers of Doom. And that is kind of controversial with a lot of people I know. Some people, like, Towers of Doom is very polarizing. The majority hate it. The majority love it. The minority, some hate it. And it seems like no matter what, you're bound to have a strong opinion on Towers. But I am relatively alone in rating Volskaya Foundry very highly by the fun factor. I would rather play this map any day of the week over Warhead Junction, over the bottom 1/3 of the map pool for ranked right now. As we see the Vala ban right there, I almost wonder if the members of Oxygen are expecting double support to be extremely prevalent in this game right here. Mephisto, commonly considered a double support counter, banned out by Oxygen, and then Vala, commonly a double support hyper carry, also banned away. I would seem to pick up from this that Oxygen maybe thinks that both teams are likely to run double support here. We will see, though, as Junkrat is picked up by Hasuabs. A very strong pick overall, lots of area control, just does a ton of things. Now, looking at the members of Inting for Ruby and what they have as far as options go, we do note, of course, that they took away Yasu's Lucio and Nick and Hasu's Sergeant Hammer, mostly played by Nick. Will get taken out right there as Gunner picks up the Blaze and knocks on the Brightwing. Not getting too spicy with any of the individual variations just yet, but that's sure to change as we progress into the second half of the draft. Ooh, that's going to be a Leoric from Copen, picked very early this time. And this is something that we talked about with Cavalier Guest from Oxygen Esports. Cav is of the opinion that early Leoric picks are trolling, and that if you pick a Leoric early, you're inviting yourself to get countered and cry. Of course, when Oxygen picked an early Leoric last week, it did not go very well for them. They did lose that game. We will see if that trend holds true here, though. In this day, Zeratul banned out. VP Riptire, a fairly classic combination right there. Hit that Void Prison, clump up multiple members of Inting for Ruby, and just perfectly get Riptire in there for the easy coordination on the combo. By this I mean that you can, of course, run Riptire directly into the Void Prison, and then simply hold down the detonation button and it will detonate as soon as the Void Prison drops. Leo just shreds Protector. Percentage damage is quite good, and speaking of percentage damage, Mindhawk and Hat pulling out the Chogo! Oh boy, this is going to be interesting right here from the members of Inting for Ruby. Of course, that was their last set of 2 picks, so they couldn't last pick Cho'Gall. That was the best they could do. And now that's going to be a Zul'jin picked up by Nick and an Anduin by Yasu. Anytime you've got a Zul'jin picked up, you're definitely looking to get a lot of fighting in if possible. Fish777, I was gonna say, locked in the Samaru there. Now on Blaze. Fish, of course, played Uther last game on that main tank role. And I think this is the first Cho'Gall I've seen in Masters Clash. Let's see how it works into Oxygen Esports, who have so far looked quite dominant in Masters Clash, only dropping games to Chili Mountain, who they then turn around and won against in CCL. This is gonna be spicy, y'all. Alright, this is gonna be spicy, is all I can say. Looking at the situation, Cho'Gall, always a bit of a mystery piece of the puzzle here in the equation of the Heroes of the Storm meta. Okay, sometimes we always go through fluctuations, as every online community does. But sometimes it's, oh, Cho'Gall's overpowered. Even the pros say that at times. There was a period for about a week where in Korean HGC, even Rich, consensus the best player of all time in Heroes of the Storm, said, and I quote, "It feels like the team that gets the Cho'Gall just wins the game." There was about a week-long period where Korea thought that it was unbeatable, but let's go ahead and get into the game right here. On the left side of your screen, Inting for Ruby, we have Min Hat, that is of course Mindhawk and Hat, on the Cho'Gall. Nox is going to be playing the Brightwing. Fish on the Blaze, and Gunner on that Samaru. Meanwhile, the members of Oxygen Esports, we have... Sorry, a little short of breath right now. We have Bad Benny on the Muradin, Nick, aka Hans, playing that Zul'jin, 19CM, aka Copenhagen on the Leoric, Hasuabs on the Junkrat, and Yasu on the Anduin. Now a bit of an early siege right here, and just as I spoke about last game, any chance that these teams ever sniff even the slightest chance to get some siege damage in on a building, I fully expect them to just take advantage right away. Siege camp's not up just quite yet, as is the case on every map in the game. How is Samaru getting bullied by Leo? What? As is the case in every game, the camps spawn 1 minute into it. And this is an early invade from Oxygen. They knew exactly what they wanted to do, as they are aware that Cho'Gall is in this top lane. Cho'Gall will not be able to rotate over to the turret camp, and this is the classic conundrum. Whenever you play with a Cho'Gall on your team, is, hey, your map rotations leave a lot to be desired. You only have 4 bodies total to really take care of the map, and at this stage in the game, if you are the members of Inting for Ruby, your only hero that can really macro and impact the wave clear situation is the Blaze. Cho'Gall, of course, can do part of it as well, but they have limited options for the side of Inting for Ruby, and Oxygen already less than 2 minutes into the game, nearly taking out 2 full gates, both in mid and bottom. After having successfully stolen the siege camp on the side of Oxygen, they went over to the side of Inting for Ruby, took it. They have now taken their own. And this is an early siege camp from the members of Inting for Ruby, as Gunnar getting some big damage onto Hasu, taking a very effective short trade, barely avoiding stepping into that Junkrat trap. Update score. I would love to update score. Unfortunately, I do not have control over that, but it is 1-0 in favor of Oxygen Esports. I'm going to go ahead and just change our scenes really quick, just to try and go ahead and fix that for you while we're out of the action. There's the schedule, there's the game, and the score has been updated. Perfect. Alrighty, this is 1-0 in favor of Oxygen. Let's take a look at those talents right there. And what is this? Perfect Storm. I'm of the opinion that that talent is highly outdated. It used to be good back when it scaled off of landing storm bolts, but now it scales off of hitting auto attacks as Muradin, and it scales at a much lower rate than what it used to be. One thing Fish in particular right here, this Blaze, I believe, has said about Bad Benny is, quote, Bad Benny's builds are stuck in 2018. He picks what he knows from the past rather than what is good right now. Some casual siege pressure really just all over the place from the members of Oxygen Esports here. Able to finish off the entire mid gate, even now down to the sidewalls, down to the sidewalls. Oh, wait, no. Don't tease it like that. You gotta finish it off. And now Hasuwab similarly getting that siege pressure in the top lane for Oxygen. IFR not getting much done around the map in general, as Copenhagen trading very well and very efficiently into Gunnar right here. Gunnar getting ganked by Bad Benny. The timely rotation will pick up another kill. And at this point, a mere 4 minutes into the game, Oxygen now completing their second invade, but they don't have anybody to pick this up. Are they gonna get it? Okay, there we go. The members of Oxygen now utilizing one of their turrets. Is it one of the stolen ones? Is it one of theirs? I'm not quite sure. Regardless, they are able to get a bottom fort out of it.
Red team has destroyed the fort.
Alrighty. And now Oxygen moving over, looking to get started on their siege camp. Will Yasu leash it just barely in time? No, actually. What? Yasu leashes the siege camp, but it still despawns. I was 100% sure that he had aggroed that, but hey, every map's a little bit different now. Triglav Protector utilizing this level 10 advantage, looking to pressure out onto this bottom keep. Oxygen knows that the members of Inting for Ruby don't have their ults yet. And now this is actually going to be just Blaze and Cho'Gall. Looks like now just Cho'Gall on the defense, as other members of Oxygen pressure onto the various other structures of the map. Rather than going for the keep with their full power right away, they merely use the Triglav as a distraction, while the rest of the team gets some siege damage in. Ooh, Nick stunned out by Fish right there will be okay. Polymorph was quickly used as follow-up, but the damage simply isn't there. Maybe with Gunnar arriving on the scene, they could have hoped to get some damage out onto Hans, but with just the Blaze and the Brightwing, especially before that level 13, before Blaze can get that collision course and pick up extra damage, it is just not going to be enough to go for those aggro kills. Ooh, jet propulsion interrupted by Bad Benny, but of course when jet propulsion gets interrupted on Blaze, you simply get the option to cast it again. It does not go on full cooldown. At least if you interrupt it during the initial windup. If you let Blaze move a little bit and then interrupt, it will go on full cooldown, of course. Alrighty, the members of Oxygen now pressuring here onto this middle fort. It is very, very low. They know that they can finish it off whenever they need to. Inting for Ruby, wow, finds himself caught right in the middle of this entomb. Bunker actually going down before Cho'Gall can get in, but no! Haymaker by Muradin actually propelling Cho'Gall quickly to safety. To be honest with you, I'm a little bit surprised I didn't see some pings on a Muradin right there. Regardless, kill might not have been secure if not for the Haymaker in the first place. Or rather, if they didn't Haymaker, the Cho'Gall may have been able to escape. Still, you absolutely hate to see it. We've all been there. I've been on Raynor, pushing enemy players directly to safety more times than I can count. Members of Oxygen able to pick up that healing support item, and I think we're rapidly nearing all the members of Oxygen having an item right now. 3 members so far, now about to be 4 as Hans picks up the turret, and Copenhagen is the only member of Oxygen Esports that is not currently holding an item. Hans now pressuring up over towards this top side lane. And the push pressure from Oxygen Esports has just been omnipresent here in this game. Minhat and Bad Benny trading blows in this mid lane. Of course, Muradin XP bar, health bar rather, is expendable. Not too concerned about taking a few chip hits here and there. Bad Benny lurking over the wall, loves to dive in these situations. Stormbolt connects onto the fort rather than Fish, I get it. Different target, and actually it's gonna be a Samuro going down in bot lane right there, thanks to a gank by the Junkrat. And I gotta say, typically I've thought of Samuro versus Leoric as being a rather Samuro favored matchup, but Copenhagen looks comfy out here. Copenhagen looks completely unbothered, as Hasuabs is now rotated on by Cho'Gall, will of course utilize that Ripper Air to get right on out of there. No huge surprises in what I'm seeing among these talents for the most part, other than that Stormbolt for the Muradin, which I find to be kind of sketch, but hey, it seems to be working for the Oxygen so far. The Oxygen, of course, just the one. And now the top fort pressure continues. Oxygen, of course, would love to take out this entire fort, take away the option for the healing fountain from even remotely helping Inting for Ruby on this next objective. Fish 777 going in for the jet propulsion, does not connect onto Hans, but Hans nevertheless still has to be yanked out by Yasu, utilizing that leap of faith. Tazdingo coming out just in time. Heal item trying to keep Hans up. He's still got his turret, and he doesn't use the turret. He does use the turret. Wow. The smoke cleared, and he in fact had just a moment to get it dropped in. And now this is 3-on-4 top lane for Oxygen. Mindhawk is aware of this, diving in aggressively, getting some damage onto Bad Benny. Bad Benny drops. Okay, 2 kills to 2 kills in the current game situation between these two teams. 4 total. Level 16 advantage for Oxygen Esports. And the Cho'Gall, definitely a bit of a scaling character, starting to kick in right here. And I'm excited to see what they can do when they hit that level 16 and really start to ball out in these fights. Brightwing just sitting away faithfully on that objective. Nick taking this opportunity to hand out a couple axes. He's got a brochure ready to go to anybody who's around. Number 1 axe salesman in the Nexus. Level 16 advantage now just around the corner for the members of Inting for Ruby. They will secure it. And we see Fish starting to rotate over. Inting for Ruby gonna take this siege camp. And then I expect to see at least some pressure onto the objective, but no, this is actually a Cho'Gall rotation to bottom lane, actually towards the siege camp right here. Ooh, the damage being traded back and forth, and the attack speed is so high from Cho'Gall. How did that even happen? As in fact, I'm trying to see, I'm like, wait, what's the talent that makes you do that? It's Frenzied Fists on Cho'Gall at level 16. Junkrat going down in the meantime. My apologies, friends. I thought I was watching the fight, but no, there was a fight elsewhere, as is often the case in Masters Clash right there. Cho'Gall wanted to get in there and just absolutely slap people, however. Gunnar now walking away directly into the hands of Oxygen Esports, chastised from Yasu, just barely not connecting. I was about to say, chat, I was literally about to say that Inting for Ruby completed the successful invade of Oxygen Esports turret camp, but no, this is their own camp. It's just gotten invaded so much that I started to feel like it was Oxygen's. Now the members of Oxygen Esports stepping up right here. Hans dismounting Mindhawk as he approaches the objective. Inting for Ruby knows that Junkrat is only just now respawning and Leoric is bot lane, so they do have the number advantage here in the top side of this game. Ooh, jump interrupted from Bad Benny on the Dwarf Toss. Not able to capitalize, though, the members of Inting for Ruby, as we see Copenhagen just getting this map pressure wherever he can. A little bit of dueling here, back and forth. I'm also watching that fight in top lane. Really want to make sure we don't miss any kills here. Any more than we have, at least. And now here's some bot lane pressure from Oxygen Esports. 19 CM and Hasuabs on the scene. This is another auto attack Leoric. We saw one last game, and we are again seeing one right here, right now. Inching for Ruby now arriving onto bottom lane, forcing out the Ripper Air from Hasu. Wraithwalk is utilized by Copenhagen to dodge the jet propulsion. And god dang it, I just said I was trying to see the kills! Please be patient with me, chat, as we see Inting for Ruby with the Triglav Protector in that top lane. They've got Cho in it. They've got Cho and Gall, and that's a Riptire onto Fish in the bottom lane. They're still just now getting out of that entombment. Light Bomb didn't even have time to go off! And here is the classic conundrum, of course, of Volskaya Foundry. The objective itself takes an extremely long time to procure. Not only that, the reward for actually securing the objective is not particularly massive. Inting for Ruby not able to get a ton out, as we see the stun combo from Bad Benny onto Gunnar right here. Samuro typically a highly slippery character, but he's not going to be able to make it out of this one. Asuab's now immediately getting started with this turret, and Inting for Ruby just looking like they're starting to get thoroughly dismantled by Oxygen Esports in the late game. Oxygen Esports opening up bot lane, of course, means that with the third objective of the game, which is always in the bottom lane, they have an open path directly to the core of Inting for Ruby. In Hat now stepping here, of course, that is Mindhawk and Hat. The members of Inting for Ruby wanted to take it a little safe while they wait for their Samuro to respawn. And at this point, this is Oxygen's map. They are simply just controlling the angles, controlling the space. Bad Benny with the zone right here, making sure that the members of Inting for Ruby don't step up too hard on his teammates. Oh, and we see the heavy impact onto Mindhawk looking for that pressure, but the Hammer of Twilight immediately sending him back. Ooh, the pressure continues. Mindhawk not wanting to finish just quite yet, still stepping up aggro into the members of Oxygen Esports, getting those ranged auto attacks thanks to Cthulhu's gift whenever he wants it. Oh, and that's a buried alive onto Cho'Gall, trying to get into this bunker in time, but the burst damage is far too high from the members of Oxygen Esports. Jet propulsion actually chastised right there by Fish, not able to get it off, and that is surely out of nowhere going to be game for Oxygen Esports. Oh, and then if that wasn't the icing on the cake, there's an additional Brightwing kill picked up by Bad Benny. And now at this point, who even needs the keep? Oxygen Esports knows, hey, we got a couple kills, we're right next to enemy base, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. 2-0 series victory in favor of Oxygen Esports. GG called out. And what a series to open us up right here. Good stuff overall from Oxygen. And I gotta say, when I have watched Oxygen in MC these past few weeks, what I have noticed is just exactly what we saw in that game right there. This persistence of application of map pressure. Anywhere. All the teams do it in Masters Clash, all the teams do it in CCL, but Oxygen in particular, everything comes at a price. You gank a side lane? Congrats, they got gate on the other side of the game. Okay? You park your chokeall top a little bit too long? Boom. You just lost your turret camp, and your second turret camp. To the point where when you actually do get your own turret camp, it feels like an invade, and it's on your side of the map. Absolutely crazy stuff right there. The combination of the knowledge from Oxygen Esports to continually just know where they can pressure and exactly for how long before they need to leave to make sure they don't die, combined with the fluidity and the raw level of just speed and coordination that some of those burst combos are coming at, particularly topside onto that Cho'Gall right at the very end. Kind of just everybody pressing their buttons, but still, Cho'Gall just got absolutely popped right there. Well done. Let's go ahead and see if our standings have been updated to reflect that game. It looks like not quite yet. Oxygen Esports had 19 points going into the series today. And just to remind you all of the point structure for Masters Clash, these are all best of twos. Every team plays 2 games each day of the weekend. If you win both games, you gain 2 points. If you tie, you gain 1 point. You, of course, do not gain any points for losing 2-0.